Have you ever felt so desperate, so heartbroken, that words just wouldn't come out? You cry out to God, but it's a silent scream, a prayer from the deepest part of your soul. If you've ever been there, then you know Hannah. Her story, found in the book of 1 Samuel, is one of the most powerful accounts of prayer in the entire Bible, and it all started with a silent vow. Let's set the scene. We're in ancient Israel, a time when a woman's worth was often measured by her ability to have children. Hannah was married to a man named Elkanah, who loved her dearly. There was just one problem. Hannah was barren. To make matters worse, Elkanah had another wife, Peninnah, who had many children. And Peninnah wasn't exactly a supportive sister wife. Year after year, she would taunt Hannah, rubbing her face in her childlessness, especially during their annual trip to the tabernacle at Shiloh to worship. Imagine the pain of that journey, meant to be a time of spiritual renewal. But for Hannah, it was a yearly reminder of her deepest sorrow, amplified by Peninnah's cruelty. The Bible says Peninnah provoked her severely to make her miserable. Hannah would often weep and refuse to eat. Her husband, Elkanah, tried to comfort her, saying, "Hannah, why do you weep? Why don't you eat? Am I not more to you than 10 sons?" He loved her, but he just didn't understand the depth of her anguish. This brings us to the pivotal moment in our story. One year, during their visit to Shiloh, Hannah had reached her breaking point. After a meal, she got up and went to the tabernacle to pray. The high priest, Eli, was sitting on a chair near the entrance. The Bible tells us that Hannah was in bitterness of soul, and she prayed to the Lord and wept in anguish. But this wasn't a loud, public display. Her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. It was a silent, gut-wrenching conversation between her and God. She poured out her heart, making a solemn vow. "O Lord of hosts," she prayed, "if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head." This was a Nazirite vow, an incredibly serious commitment, dedicating her future child completely to God's service. Now, picture this from Eli's perspective. He sees this woman, her shoulders shaking with sobs, her mouth moving silently, her face etched with pain. What does he think? He assumes the worst. He thinks she's drunk. "How long will you be drunken?" he scolds her. "Put away your wine from you." Can you imagine? In her most vulnerable, sacred moment, she's misunderstood and falsely accused by the high priest himself. But Hannah doesn't get angry. She doesn't shrink away in shame. With incredible grace and strength, she responds, "No, my Lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been speaking out of my great anxiety and grief." Her raw honesty changes everything. Eli's heart softens. He sees her sincerity and realizes his mistake. He then gives her a blessing that will change her life forever. He says, "Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition that you have asked of him." And with those words, something inside Hannah shifts. The Bible says she went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. She hadn't received a physical sign. The baby wasn't in her arms yet, but she had an assurance, a peace that came from laying her burden down and trusting that God had heard her silent prayer. She left her pain at the altar and walked away in faith. And God, who sees the heart and hears the silent prayers we cannot speak, honored her faith. The very next morning, the family worshiped and returned home. Soon after, Hannah conceived and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, which means heard by God, because, she said, "I asked the Lord for him." Think about that. Every time she called her son's name, it was a testimony. It was a constant reminder that God listens, that he hears the cries of our hearts, even when no sound comes out. But the story doesn't end there. Remember the vow? Hannah made a promise, and she was a woman of her word. Once Samuel was weaned, which in that culture could be around age 3 or 4, she did the unthinkable. She took her long-awaited, precious child back to the tabernacle in Shiloh. She brought him to Eli, the very priest who had once misjudged her. She said, "For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition. So I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he shall be lent to the Lord." She left her son, her miracle baby, to be raised in the temple and serve God for his entire life. This act of faithfulness is just breathtaking. The faith it took to pray for a child was immense. But the faith it took to give him back to God is on another level entirely. After leaving Samuel with Eli, what does Hannah do? Does she weep? Does she grieve? No. She prays again. But this time, it's not a silent prayer of desperation. It's a powerful, prophetic song of praise. It's recorded in 1 Samuel chapter 2, and it's a beautiful declaration of God's power and sovereignty. She sings, "My heart rejoices in the Lord. There is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you." She praises God for raising the poor from the dust, for lifting the needy, for humbling the proud, and exalting the humble. Her personal story of vindication becomes a universal song about the nature of God Himself. Her prayer wasn't just about getting a baby. It was about her relationship with a God who turns things upside down. And God continued to bless Hannah's faithfulness. The story tells us that Eli would bless Elkanah and Hannah each year, praying that God would give them more children. And He did. Hannah went on to have 3 more sons and 2 daughters. Her womb, which had been a source of shame and sorrow, became a source of incredible blessing. God didn't just answer her initial prayer. He gave her more than she could have ever asked for. So what can we take away from the girl who opened heaven with a silent prayer? First, God hears your heart. You don't need eloquent words or a loud voice. Your silent, desperate cries in the middle of the night reach His ears just as clearly as a shout from a mountaintop. He sees your bitterness of soul. Second, persistence in prayer matters. Hannah didn't give up. Year after year, she brought her pain to God. Don't be discouraged if your answer doesn't come immediately. Keep seeking, keep knocking, keep pouring out your soul. Third, when you lay your burdens before God, you can walk away in peace, even before the situation changes. Hannah's countenance changed the moment she trusted God, not the moment she held her son. True peace is found in entrusting the outcome to Him. And finally, keep your promises to God. Hannah's integrity in fulfilling her vow, even when it was incredibly difficult, led to even greater blessings. Hannah's story is a timeless reminder that in our deepest pain, when we feel overlooked, misunderstood, and utterly hopeless, we have a God who sees, who hears, and who acts. He is the God who can take our silent desperation and turn it into a song of victory. So whatever you're facing today, take a lesson from Hannah. Pour out your soul before the Lord. Trust that He hears you, and be prepared to see Him work in ways you can't even imagine. Thanks so much for watching. If Hannah's story encouraged you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that dives deep into these powerful stories of faith. Let us know in the comments which biblical character you'd like to hear about next. See you in the next video.